Cinema has an obsession. Since its inception, and with each story, new or old, there is always a final piece to every puzzle. From ancient history to modern anxieties, cinematic triumphs to misguided influences, and eschatological failings to psychological freedom, the imagery has dominated the narrative landscape. But all of this begs the question, what's so appealing about the end of the world? The end of the world ordinarily comes about in its cinematic form in many ways. An aggressive microbial pandemic, global nuclear annihilation, climate or geographical catastrophe, extraterrestrial invasion, or any other manner of science fiction or fantastical disaster. Or as Mitchell describes in A Guide to Apocalyptic Cinema, a motion picture that depicts the credible threat to the continuing existence of humankind or the existence of Earth as a planet capable of supporting human life. These stories themselves are well established. In fact, acknowledged by film historians as the first apocalyptic feature film, 1916's Verdens Undergang, a Danish picture, cites the titular earthly demise at the hands of a comet, an image popularized in many contemporary works due to hysteria surrounding Halley's Comet of 1910. Typically depicting a catalytic event that spirals for the masses until the visual of our planet's or humanity's destruction takes over. These films are often seen through the eyes of an outwardly ordinary individual, burdened to complete a decidedly human or extraordinary mission. To reduce the narratives to these common tropes, however, doesn't do many of them justice. They can be some of the most compelling, artistically varied, and profound pieces of entertainment presented on screen. But with the end of the world comes another question. Should you just so happen to survive, what comes next? As the Cold War reignited the very real possibility that some might be left behind in a disfigured post-nuclear world, an explosion of media dubbed post-apocalyptic in genre was inherited by this scene. Consequently, the focus was fixed on life after a version of the collapse. The cities of today standing like monuments of old, lonely wanderers among remnants of the familiar, survivors pitted against survivors. So with all this catastrophic devastation, often deep emotional loss, and tribal, primitive regression, why are so many of us drawn to these stories? So, why an ending? Well, life is an ongoing present. The meaning around events is unknowable until their conclusion. An ending, therefore, helps to organize and satisfy the conflict in existence. The theological apocalyptic narratives have the grandest effect of this. A societal anchor for which our doomed present can revolve. Apocalypse, from the ancient Greek apokalypsis or revelation, became wholly associated with Abrahamic eschatology, the theological study concerning the final judgment, in the final biblical chapter. In ignoring an apostle's vision of global corruption's unmasking, humanity guarantees civilizational collapse at the hands of God in response to the beast. Only with the return of Christ and the final judgment of all will this ultimate suffering cease. The narrative presented in the Book of Revelation is not unique to Christianity, but one of a great many religious accounts about a final cataclysm and rebirth. The Norse Ragnarok, the Islamic Yawm al-Qiyamah, the Zoroastrian Frashokareti, and the Hindu Kali Yuga. While throughout history, there have been calamitous events that might symbolically resemble these eschatological works, often figures ascribe specific coincidental dates, times, or eras to them. When this occurs, they fall into a category Frank Kermode describes in The Sense of an Ending as a naive apocalypse.
It's the apocalypse, end of days. The Mayans knew about it, the Hopis, the I Ching, the Bible, kind of, beer.
Whenever their chosen epoch ends, without a great conclusion, the oracles simply course correct and pick a new time for which to satisfy their final chapter in history. The image of the end can never be permanently falsified, but they also, when awake and sane, present a recurring need for adjustments in the interest of reality and control. But we have since grown beyond such thinking. Fears of the world's end in the year 1000 became the year 1033, and then 1236, and then 1260, and on and on and on until the years 2000 and 2012 came and went. This marked, as Kermode describes, an interpretive shift from the apocalypse's imminence to its imminence. The naive apocalypse, through exhaustion of reinterpretation and its temporal failure, transitioned to a sophisticated apocalypse. The end is not a singular event, but a permanent interpretive condition. In plain English, The literal expectation of the end never comes, and so our understanding of the concept changed over time. History occupies an indefinite middle between beginning and end. Without visible cultural closure, the simulation of what's known as Aristotle's peripeteia, or a reversal of fortune, becomes the norm. Societal crises, revolutions, and upheavals are repeatedly framed as epochal because we require narrative structure to understand their position in time. Psychologically, we define our lives as moments, as meaningful chapters, micro-apocalypses that make personal history readable. This could be the end of a relationship, moving away from home, or finishing a piece of art. History is a fictive substitute for authority and tradition, a maker of concords between past, present, and future. So this explains our need for endings. But what's so special about cinematic apocalypse? Francois Truffaut's famous quote, "There is no such thing as an anti-war film," refers to the idea that cinematic depictions of war are inherently sensationalized, no matter how disenfranchised the plot might be. War is an event, it's a spectacle, no matter how destructive or horrific. Cinematic apocalypse and post-apocalypse, despite similarities, present an opposite dilemma. The vision of many of these works is represented by their what-if position as narratives, a glance at life during or after this apocalypse, occurring due to very modern concerns, rapid societal or environmental change, or unregulated technological advancement, for example. They, like most other stories, allow us to escape. But how do we define spectacle? Mad Max, Fury Road, and Independence Day are decidedly spectacular, but how does that differentiate from, let's say, Shaun of the Dead? Is A Quiet Place spectacular? What about The Bone Temple? A central tenet of Guy Debord's situationist theory is his notion of the spectacle. He argues everything that was directly lived has receded into a representation. Spectacle is the material reconstruction of the religious illusion. From this, it's clear that Debord's concept of the spectacle goes beyond just the visual entertainment aspect that Truffaut was critically captivated by. Truffaut's is the visual awe derived from the presentation of the images, whereas the spectacle is not a collection of images, but a social relation among people, mediated by images, a social condition of modernity. Put simply, Debord's theory of the spectacle is when our social lives are experienced through representations rather than directly lived. This is life inside advanced capitalism. Apocalypse films are attractive precisely because they imagine a world outside of the spectacle. Modern society lives inside representation. Apocalypse narratives imagine what happens when the mediation collapses, and we no longer rely on representations to interpret reality. What appears catastrophic is simultaneously reassuring, because it restores legibility to a world otherwise defined by uncertainty. We are hypnotically offered heroes, threats, survival, and a conclusion, and thus re-establish meaning where none could otherwise be grasped. But we choose to watch this collapse precisely because we gain something from it, an escape from abstraction. The spectacle presents itself simultaneously as society itself, as a part of society, and as a means of unification. But cinematic apocalypse. Cinema, through this lens, is an organized experience, yet it is a convenient interpretation. While not preventing a complete understanding of apocalyptic events, it provides a particular kind of understanding. It's retrospective.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Ordered and interpretable. It contains selective meaning. In contrast, lived catastrophe is engulfing, disorientating.
This is the same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm and that would take care of it.
And unresolved.
There is a tendency to say that they are not our problem.
There is no one meaning, only its reason for occurrence. The spectacle, therefore, is a concrete inversion of life. But without this inversion, without the spectacle, what remains, maybe, is our true journey.
Water. Oh, please.
I was hoping I'd find you here, just in a better state than this. What happened?
I could ask you the same thing.
I heard your message over the radio. I didn't know you knew how to do that.
I got injured. Had some military kit that I hooked up. Wasn't just you who hurt me though. The others getting back to finish the job. Made a pretty good go of it, I reckon.
Yeah, it looks like it. You're bleeding.
I was. There's not much left of me now though. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
You're not looking bad either.
It's a long story.
Well, I'm not going anywhere.
Now's not the time.
Oh, what a mess, huh?
Felt worse on nights out.
are some good nights. With all the others too. Yeah. Yeah, they were. I wouldn't wait around after dark. You might not make it out. I'm not going anywhere.
Millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
Fears of landslides. Portugal's Prime Minister has described the level of rain as unprecedented.
There was a Downing Street Christmas party on Friday night. Do you recognise those reports?
We live in anxious and ambiguous times. But all of these events, whether in our past, near present, or future, share a defining feature. They counter our understanding of cinematic narrative structure. A division defined by immediacy over duration, survival thrill over intense suffering, and individual agency over systemic causality.
Drill, baby, drill.
Cinema's weakness is its representational narrowing, offering social and psychological meaning to apocalyptic events where, despite our best sensationalized efforts, no singular one in the real world exists. But in recognizing this, it does not diminish the value of apocalyptic media. It merely clarifies its function, not to reproduce catastrophe as it is lived, but to make it understandable. We watch the end of the world not to revel in destruction, but to encounter an event that, unlike the world as it is experienced, we hope can be truly grasped.